Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over Week 11 college football predictions. So last week, I had a record of 14-6, and that brings my record on the year to 160-32. Kicking things off this week, we've got Michigan at Penn State. So as we all know, Michigan is in the middle of a sign-stealing situation right now, and as a result, the Big Ten has said they won't let Jim Harbaugh be on the sideline for the rest of the games in the regular season, and that goes into effect this week. But this will not be the first time Michigan will be without Jim Harbaugh, as he was suspended the first 3 games of the season. But this is the first test of the season for Michigan, and it's not going to be easy going to Happy Valley. This is can be a very low-scoring defensive game. Both teams are top 3 in the country in scoring defense. Michigan allows 6.7 points a game. Penn State allows about 12 points a game. Now, offensively, both teams want to run the football, but both teams have tremendous run defenses. In fact, Penn State has the second-best run defense in the country, allowing just 60 rushing yards a game. Now, the difference between these two teams is at quarterback. For Penn State, they haven't let Drew Allar do much this season, and in the one game they did, because they needed him to against Ohio State, he was terrible. Then, for Michigan, J.J. McCarthy's having a great season. He did throw up his arm and his legs, and I think he's the difference maker in this game. Michigan wins this game, even against a tough Penn State defense, 24-17. Next game, we got Alabama at Kentucky. So Alabama's coming off a big win over LSU, needs to avoid a letdown game. But Alabama's been playing well lately. They're coming off what I think is their best game of the season. And they now face a Kentucky team where we see the same thing every year. They start off strong because they don't play anybody. They get into the SEC schedule. They lose because they're not actually that good. And we saw the exact same thing this year. Kentucky just snapped a 3-game losing streak last week with a win over Mississippi State. But I don't think the Kentucky offense is good enough here. I think they're going to have to score a good amount. And I don't really think they're going to be able to against a good Alabama defense. And Alabama's defense has been very good. They haven't given up more than 21 points, excluding last week, since week 2. So Alabama's been playing a lot better lately. I think they control both sides of the ball, and they get the win by a score of 31-14. Next game, we got Texas Tech at Kansas. So Kansas has been great this season, especially at home where they're 5-0. They have faced a Texas Tech team that's been very disappointing at just 4-5. Plus, the Texas Tech defense isn't great, allowing 25 points a game and 140 rushing yards a game. And that is not good when they have to face a Kansas offense who is third best scoring team in the Big 12 and also has a very good run game. Now, Kansas defensively isn't great, but Texas Tech is not good enough offensively. Kansas improves to 8-2 in the year and wins by a score of 35-24. Up next, we got Tulane hosting Tulsa. So Tulane needs a bounce-back game after nearly losing to 1-8 East Carolina last week. Tulane has actually played 3 straight one-score games against teams that aren't great. Tulsa's another team that isn't great. They're not good offensively, scoring just 22 points a game. Their defense is terrible, allowing over 35 points a game. So Tulane is clearly the better team. They return home for this game after back-to-back games on the road, and I think Tulane finally gets that dominant win they've been looking for and wins this one easily 42-14. Moving on, we've got Colorado hosting Arizona. So Arizona's been a great team so far this season. They're 6-3 and have just one regulation loss all season, and that is a 7-point loss to Washington. A big reason why Arizona's so good, especially as of late, winning 3 straight, has been their defense, allowing just 19.8 points a game, and they haven't allowed more than 24 points in their 3-game win streak. Now, Colorado can score, even though I do think they will face more resistance against good defense. But the Arizona offense has been great with no Fafita at quarterback, as he started 5 games, and they're averaging 32.6 points a game with Fafita at quarterback. This is a terrible matchup for Arizona, who is allowing 33.9 points a game. Arizona continues to play well, and they beat Colorado fairly easily by a score of 38-24. Up next, we got Baylor at Kansas State. So Kansas State's come off a game against Texas where they nearly pulled off the upset, but they were unable to do so. They now face a Baylor team that has been terrible. They're 3-6, terrible offensively, scoring just 22.7 points a game. And they now have to face a Kansas State defense that is second best in the Big 12, allowing just 17.8 points a game. Plus, the Kansas State offense faces a Baylor defense that allows nearly 30 points a game. Kansas State dominates this game on all aspects and wins this game by a score of 37-14. Moving on, we've got Miami at Florida State. This is a tough test for Florida State, and it is their toughest remaining test before the ACC Championship game. Now, Miami got off to a great start this season, but they've had a tough 5-game stretch, which includes losses to Georgia Tech, North Carolina, and NC State, plus barely beating a Virginia team that is terrible and a very average Clemson team. Now, for Miami, quarterback Tyler Van Dyke has thrown 10 interceptions in his last 4 games, and he now faces a good Florida State defense that has been playing well lately, only allowing 17 points a game in the season and hasn't given up more than 20 points in 5 games. Miami's going to need a lot more than 20 to keep up with the great Florida State offense that scores about 40 points a game. I think Florida State will be too much offensively. Miami hasn't been playing well. This game's also on the road. Florida State gets this win fairly easily by a score of 38-21. Next game, we got Utah at Washington. So Washington's elite offense is going to face a tough task when they have to take on a Utah defense that's allowing just 15.9 points a game and very good against the run and the pass. Now, Washington, their offense faces a big challenge. The Utah defense also has their toughest task, as Washington is scoring 41.7 points a game. They have the best passing offense in the country with 383 passing yards per game. And while Washington is known for their passing offense, they can also run the ball too. They run for 126 yards per game, and that isn't a great average, but Washington ran for over 300 yards last week. And speaking of last week, Washington scored 52 last week, and I know that was against a non-existent USC defense, but 52 is still impressive. So I think this Washington's offense is just too good. I think Utah will be able to score somewhat because Washington's defense is amazing, although they are okay. They're not awful like USC. But the Washington offense is way too much for most teams to handle, especially for a team like Utah that's only averaging 25 points a game. Washington wins this game in what ends up being a convincing win, 41-21. Next game, we got Missouri hosting Tennessee. This is another tough game to predict. Tennessee needs to avoid looking ahead to their matchup against Georgia next week. But Missouri's a tough team, and they're coming off a loss to Georgia where they lost 30-21, and they're looking for a bounce-back win. These two teams are pretty similar offensively, scoring about 30 points a game. Now, I know their offensive styles are different, but scoring-wise, they're pretty similar. Tennessee's defense has carried them to this point, allowing just 18.4 points a game. But this is a game I could see going either way. I think this will be a higher-scoring game. I think Missouri's offense is better, but Joe Milton, Tennessee quarterback, has been better as of late, and I really have no idea who's going to win this game. I'm going to take Missouri because they're home and Tennessee has Georgia next week, but I really have no idea. Missouri wins 33-31. Up next, we get UCF hosting Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State needs to avoid a letdown game after upsetting Oklahoma last week, and Oklahoma State's also red hot, winning 5 straight, including the win over Oklahoma, as I just said. Star running back Ollie Gordon's been a big reason why they've been so good. He's at 1,225 rushing yards on the season, and now this is a terrible matchup for UCF. Their run defense is awful, allowing over 200 rushing yards a game. Their defense also has 30 points a game. But this is the same UCF defense that allowed nearly 400 rushing yards to Kansas earlier this season. So Oklahoma State may get off to a slow start, but Ollie Gordon's going to run for like 500 yards. Not quite, but you get the point. And Oklahoma State wins by a score of 34-21. Next game, we got Iowa hosting Rutgers. So this game is going to be insanely low scoring. Iowa just beat Northwestern 10-7 last week, and then they'll face a Rutgers team with a good defense and a not great offense. The Rutgers offense is better than Iowa as they score 26 points a game and run for 184 yards per game, whereas Iowa scores just 18 points a game. And even though Iowa has a great defense, I think Rutgers will do just enough offensively and get the win in a very low scoring game, 13-10. Could be even lower scoring than that. Moving on, we've got Stanford at Oregon State. So Stanford is the weirdest team you will see this season. They scored 46 points against Colorado, then followed it up with a 7-point game against UCLA. Then they scored 33 against Washington, and last week scored just 10 against Washington State and won. So, by the recent patterns for Stanford, it seems like this is going to be a high-scoring game for them offensively, but who knows. But they now face a good Oregon State defense, and Oregon State hasn't been amazing over the past couple games, but I still don't think Stanford is all that good. Oregon State gets to win 31-13. Up next, we got Ole Miss at Georgia. So this is a tricky game for Georgia because the Georgia defense is good but not elite. It's possible to run the football and throw the football against Georgia's defense, and that is a huge advantage for Ole Miss because they have an elite offense when firing on all cylinders, although they are very streaky. But they're scoring 38.8 points a game. They have a great run game with star running back Rashawn Judkins and a great quarterback-receiver combo that averages nearly 300 passing yards a game with Jackson Dart and Trey Harris. So Ole Miss will win this game by playing a flawless offensive game, and now, I think they could get the win, but the thing that concerns me about Ole Miss is their defense, because Georgia's a great offense, scoring nearly 40 points a game at 39.3 points a game, and the Ole Miss defense is not great. They allowed 49 to LSU earlier this season, and just allowed 35 to Texas A&M, who's not great offensively last week. Now, I could see this game going either way. I think it's going to turn into a shootout. I want to pick Ole Miss with the upset, and I do think they have a decent chance of pulling it off, but Georgia's at home. They have not lost at home in 4 years, and I'm going to take the safe route. I'm going to pick Georgia, winning 38-35, but I really want Ole Miss to get the win, and I think they have a decent chance of doing it, but I got Georgia narrowly getting the win. Next week, we've got West Virginia at Oklahoma. So Oklahoma really needs a bounce-back win after back-to-back losses to Kansas and Oklahoma State. West Virginia's been pretty good this season. Both teams are pretty good offensively, and I think this game is going to turn into a shootout. Both teams' defenses are okay, but the offense will definitely steal the show. But Oklahoma's better offensively, and they will outscore West Virginia 30-24. Up next, we got Ohio State hosting Michigan State. This game should not be close. Michigan State is terrible. They face an Ohio State team which is one of the best in the country. Ohio State's defense is the second best in the country, allowing just 10.7 points a game. And Michigan State's offense is terrible, averaging just 18.2 points a game, and that is worse than Iowa, and that is tough to do. Now, on the other side of the ball, Ohio State's offense is very good. Michigan State is allowing 26.6 points a game. This game shouldn't be close. The last time Ohio State hosted Michigan in 2021, they won 56-7. This one around there as well. Ohio State 56-3. Next game, we got Texas at TCU. So Texas avoided the upset against Kansas State last week, and then we'll get quarterback Quinn Ewers back from his shoulder injury. And Ewers faces a decent TCU defense in his return from injury. The TCU offense is okay but not great. Overall, TCU's an okay but not great team. Texas is the much better team, especially defensively. I think their defense should dominate this game, and Texas wins this game fairly easily by a score of 31-13. Next game, we got LSU hosting Florida. So LSU will have quarterback Jaden Daniels as he's cleared the concussion protocol, and that is a good thing for LSU, as they're going to need a lot of offense in this game. Both teams' defenses are not that great, and both teams' offenses are very good. LSU's offense is a lot better, and they will outscore Florida because they've got so many weapons, and they're just a better overall offense, and they will win this one 42-31. Our second to last game, we've got North Carolina hosting Duke. So Duke will be without quarterback Riley Leonard as he's out with a toe injury, and that's a major loss to the Duke offense, even against a bad North Carolina defense. Now, the Duke defense is still averaging or allowing just 15.7 points a game, but they face a great North Carolina offense that scores nearly 40 points a game. And when North Carolina doesn't have a good defense, I still don't think Duke can do enough offensively without their quarterback Riley Leonard. So North Carolina gets to win, even against a tough Duke defense, 27-13. And our final game, we've got Oregon hosting USC. So some people would say this is going to be a great game. I would strongly disagree. Oregon's offense is great, scoring 47.4 points a game, and they face a terrible USC defense that is allowing 35 points a game. A defense so bad they give up over 100 combined points in their last two games. Now, USC did just fire defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, but I don't really think that's going to make a difference. Now, I know the USC offense is great, but Oregon is allowing just 16 points a game, and Oregon should easily win this game. I'm expecting another great offensive performance from the Ducks, and I think their defense will do a very good job of shutting down the USC offense. Oregon ends up with the extremely convincing win, 56-24. But those are my Week 11 college ball predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn notifications on. I do my best to post as often as possible. Make sure to check out the community tab of my channel where you can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn notifications on. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.